Usually in these dark academia poetry discussions, what I've been doing is taking a poem as an example of dark academia and some of those things that we can take with us from dark academia. But I think that what today's poetry discussion is going to largely consist of is kind of a contrast with dark academia and some of the things that we take from that. But there is an element in this poem of what I think is one of the baser meanings of dark academia. So, welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in 3 different playlists here on the channel. Number 1 being the poetry discussion playlist, now over 800 videos strong. Number 2 being the William Wordsworth playlist, a playlist of videos dedicated to William Wordsworth. And number 3 being the Dark Academia playlist, a playlist on the channel meant to explore the aesthetic and the ascetic of dark academia. The poem in question today is "It is a Beauteous Evening, Calm and Free" by William Wordsworth, and it reads as such. It is a beauteous evening, calm and free. The holy time is quiet as a nun. Breathless with adoration, the broad sun is sinking down its tranquility. The gentleness of heaven broods over the sea. Listen, the mighty being is awake, and doth with his eternal motion make a sound like thunder everlastingly. Dear child, dear girl that walkest with me here, if thou appear untouched by solemn thought, thy nature is not therefore less divine. Thou liest in Abraham's bosom all the year, and worshipst the temple's inner shrine, God being with thee when we know it not. So, this is a poem depicting a sort of evening stroll with someone who is quite innocent, a child, we are told. But I don't think it has to be a child. I think that it could be, if you were taking this poem into the context of your life, anyone that you wish for it to be, right? Anyone that you wish to harbor, anyone that you wish to protect, to provide for. So it could be your spouse, it could be your child, it could be your adult child, it could be someone else precious to you in some way. The premise of the poem is strolling along while the sun is setting and just enjoying the evening. I think that is at odds with dark academia. I think that dark academia is a fervent work ethic towards creating a greater self than you now know, a greater self than you are now existing. I live probably a pretty alternative lifestyle. I do these videos. I do several types of videos on the internet. I do a lot of work outside of work. My life is mainly dedicated to work in one way, shape, form, fashion, facet, or manner. And that's how I want it, right? That's the only way that I think I know how to be. And there are moments where I will remember the life that I had before. Evenings where I could just sit down and maybe watch television. Time where I would say, what do I want to do right now? Maybe I'll go for a casual stroll. I don't know that I know how to exist in that way anymore, and I'm not condoning that. I'm not saying it's the right way to be, but I do think that it is the dark academic presentation of life. This idea that you wake up on a mission and have something you have to accomplish. And even if there is no current deadline in your life, you are working towards something, and probably feverishly working towards something. And if you are not, then the mission is to find that next thing on which to work. I think that dark academia, if I can point to a pop culture reference, I think the main one would be, I don't remember if it was Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 3. I think it was 3. The third Iron Man, where Tony Stark had basically PTSD from the events of the first Avengers movie. And in that movie, what he does is he has resigned himself to creating Iron Man suit and Iron Man suit and Iron Man suit. One of the major plot points of that film was the versatility that he had worked up in all of those Iron Man suits. He had Iron Man suits that he would never wear. He had so many of them. He had, what is it, the Hall of Armor, I think is what it's referred to in the comics. I think that is the state of dark academia. I think that is what you are talking about when you mention dark academia, a fever pitch of work, a fever pitch of production. That is not what is going on in this poem. However, I do think that there is a bit of the dark academic element adopted in this poem right around here. So you have the speaker walking with someone that he refers to as more innocent. Let me get myself out of the way there. That is, dear child, dear girl that walkest with me here, if thou appear untouched by solemn thought, thy nature is not, therefore, less divine. I think that this is something mirrored in dark academia. Remember, Nietzsche said, if I know my why, I can endure any how. I think that dark academia is a how. I do not think that it is necessarily the why. I think for many people it will become the why. For many people it might begin as the why. But I think that many people bring a why into a fever pitch of work ethic. The dynamic between the speaker and the child here is such that the speaker is protecting the child. The speaker is a caregiver for the child. The speaker says, if those dark thoughts, those solemn thoughts are not with you, that's okay. You don't have to labor the way that I labor. You don't have to feel or think the way that I feel or think. It does not mean that you are any less divine. It means that you are different. This idea of dark academia, this idea of retreat into the self, to let the ego go and build someone that is creative, build someone that is able to manage more. I think that is oftentimes in order that someone else does not have to. I think that the idea of dark academia, the practice of dark academia, is largely one of protection, is largely one of providing. And it doesn't have to be immediate, right? I think that a lot of people who enter something that would be described as dark academia, but probably not by themselves, I think that I think that the reason the idea of dark academia has taken on such a life of its own is that there have always been dark academics, but there has never been a title for it. There has never been something to point to say, oh, well, this is their school of practice. They have schools of thought, right? Nietzsche wasn't a nihilist, but the idea of a nihilist, the idea of a stoic. Many of these people, Elon Musk, for example, probably something of a nihilist, the way that I describe nihilism, probably also a dark academic, someone who has flurries of work production. And I think that is the place where this poem touches but does not delve into completely. I think we have every reason to believe that the speaker here is someone who is in charge of protecting that child. I think we do have reason to believe that the speaker here is perhaps a dark academic because basically of diction, right? The way that the speaker talks, being as observant as our speaker is, suggests that this beauteous evening, walking along a path, observing the sunset, is not something that in which he partakes particularly often, or she partakes particularly often. I think that this poem is from the viewpoint of someone who is a little bit off kilter. And aren't we all? That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There's poetry every Monday, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.